Welcome back, everyone. Today's video is a quick discussion regarding the updated ban/limited list we are supposed to be getting after Worlds, which is in a few days on March 3rd. Now, I don't believe that we should be banning or limiting the following two cards you see on the screen. I believe they should be errata. Hopefully Bandai will errata them so that they can be used the way they were intended to be used. So we'll go through these. And the reason we are even looking at these is because Sakazuki and Moria are dominating the Japanese meta. And then they also have Katakuri, oddly enough. I say oddly enough not because Katakuri is a weak deck, but because in the US English format we have Innel dominating, and it's not like Katakuri gets anything that changes the deck too much in OP06. So it's odd that Katakuri is doing more in Japan for their OP06 format. All right, so let's begin. So there's two options to fixing Rebecca, aside from banning/limiting, which I believe they still are going to do. So the first option is to lock this to a Dressrosa leader. The reason being is because Rebecca still needs this card. If you limit or hit this card, Rebecca is just gone. Like, people will not be able to keep up with their Rebecca decks, and Rebecca is still being played, for fun. Like, people still play decks outside of the competitive format for fun, and she is a fan favorite. She is a waifu. So you taking Rebecca away just completely kills that deck. If you lock this to a Dressrosa leader, her effect can only be used basically if you are playing Rebecca and later on in Kyros. And that is the whole point of this card, right? It was not supposed to be abused generically, right? I mean, obviously it's generic and it is being abused, but if we make it not generic, you can't really abuse it. So option 2 is to lock the targets to Dressrosa. So your leader doesn't have to be Dressrosa, but the targets, the 3 to 5 cost, and the play unit has to be Dressrosa. So if you do it that way, you can play Rebecca in whatever you want, but you have to be playing the Dressrosa engine, or at least partially play the Dressrosa engine. So that limits your options. So instead of being able to pull a 2 cost, or not a 2 cost, a 2k shield out of trash and then play like a Hina or something and basically get all this free advantage, lock the targets to Dressrosa. That would fix these issues. Next, we have Gecko Moria. Now, I bring up Gecko Moria because Bandai is not like other companies. They will hit a card before we get it in the English format. They have done this quite often, in fact, and actually very recently in Digimon, they hit a Pokemon to 1 because it was being abused in the Japanese format, and we never really got to play it at full power. So Bandai, it has a history of hitting cards, even if they still need to sell the product. You won't see like Konami do this, where in Yu-Gi-Oh! They have cards coming out. They won't hit it before we get it. They still want people to buy the product and then play with it. So they still need to sell the product. So they don't hit it yet. They might hit cards that enable the craziness, but Bandai will. And there's only one option to fix Gecko Moria, and that's to lock the targets to Thriller Bark Pirates. And the reason I say that is because Gecko Moria is going to be played in the Gecko Moria deck, right? It's going to be abused with the Thriller Bark Pirates / Navy engine. So you will have to lock the targets to Thriller Bark Pirates. So this way it doesn't kill the generic Gecko Moria deck. Of course, the generic Gecko Moria deck is more of like a fun deck, like a fun spammy deck, rather than the competitive version that is actually winning. So the competitive version that is actually winning is, of course, Navy and Thriller Bark Pirates. But if you lock the targets to just Thriller Bark Pirates, it destroys all the dumb combos that people are basically abusing this with. And then this way they can't be playing like a Gecko Moria to get like a Borsalino and then some 2 cost like a Helmeppo, and this way they won't be able to do like Helmeppo plus Rob Lucci and pop targets. Like, if they just limit it to the Thriller Bark Pirate cards, you can play like your little penguin, you can play your swordsman, whatever, the zombies, all the zombies, and then it keeps the deck that it was intended to be played for completely intact, which is basically the pure Gecko Moria deck. And of course, because, like I said, Yellow, for some reason comes back in OPO6, I think they should go ahead and hit Charlotte Lindland to 1. The reason for this is because when you are going against yellow and you start off bad and you are behind, right? Your board is small and your opponents are hitting you for a 7K with Katakuri or for whatever reason, and then you have to just guard your way up. When you are behind, this card essentially clinches the game for your opponent, right? Especially if they drop multiple. 1 maybe is doable. You can come back from 1. It's harder, especially when you're behind. But like when they drop this multiple back to back, when you are already behind to begin with, and then this just puts that that gap just gets wider. So this at 1 would be fine. And then finally we have beige, right? I think it should be banned / limited to 1. And the only reason I say limited to 1 instead of completely banned is because if it is at 1, it's unlikely to be seen, like at the very end of life where it is the most useful. Like if you hit a beige early in life, people are not going to be activating this. They're going to add this to hand, and it is a 2K, so it's not that busted. If it is only really good when, usually in games when it is coming down to like neck and neck, it usually comes down to like just enough attacks to clinch the game. It's never like overwhelming, at least not in this format where red isn't in it, where we don't have a lot of rush cards. So beige sitting at like the bottom of your life really just clinches, like it buys you a whole turn of just full power assaults. So ban it. If you limit it to 1, it just comes down to luck. Like it's really lucky. When you have so many, it's not so lucky. Like you're expected to see it in there. And that's all I have today. Thanks for watching. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe.